Hey guys, this is test 61 game 2. This is the Archaeologist's Ancient Artifacts game. It is an ordering game. We know this because they say in the third line she will order them from first to sixth, so there must be an order to the artifacts. Now I've laid out the 6 variables here, F, H, J, N, P, T, and all the rules here are relational: older, younger, older, older, older. So I'm going to relate them left to right. Of course they say old is first. Most recent is 6, so it'll be left to right here. F is older than both J and H, so I put down F is to the left of J and H. Then they tell us that we've got N and J both older than T. I've got T right here, and N and J are older than it, so J is older than T, and we know that N is also older than T. So this is creating right here, a core main diagram linking things together as we go. Then they tell us that P is before both H and N, or H and N are both older than P. So two different possibilities here. Either we have P before H and N, or we have H and N both older than P. Now the thing is that this would be really messy to link onto our diagram here because we've got all these other things in the way. So you could just put down something like, P is before N and H, or you've got P's after both N and H, or P's before both N and H. Either way, it's kind of messy, but I actually do a little bit of rearranging here. I'll show you what I mean. So we could, instead of having, P kind of coming after all that, I could switch around my N and J a little bit in order to more easily link things together. So when P is before both N and H, I could simply put down P is to the left of NH for one of those possibilities. Then we have, of course, N is before T, and J is before T, and we have that F is before both H and J. So that's one way that things could play out. Then I could have the other possibility where P is after both H and N, and then I've got, of course, F is before H, and F is before J, and we know that J is before T, and we know that N is also before T. So obviously these are not ideal given that we have H in the middle of this and N in the middle of that one, but that's just basically the nature of the game. That's how the rules relate to each other, and this covers all our 2 possibilities for the game. We started with this, and we combined them to create 2 different main diagrams, and every single valid scenario will fall within one of these 2. Obviously, they're not fleshed out. We'll have to do some more work over the course of the game, but we have loosely related the variables together in the only way that they can go. So question number 6 is a typical orientation question. Just take one rule at a time and apply that rule to all 5 choices, looking for violations. So we know that F has got to go before both J and H. Check for violations of that. Choice D violates it, having J before F. Therefore, that's gone. We know that P is before both H and N or after both H and N, meaning that it can never be in the middle of them. So scanning through the choices for that, we see that choice C has P right between N and H. That's unacceptable. Therefore, choice C is gone. The other rules are good on that issue. Then we've got this sequence right here to deal with, F before both J and H. So let's check through the remaining choices there. A is good with that. B is good with that, of course, as F is first in both of those. And then E is good with that as well. We also got N and J both before T. So check for compliance with that. We see that in choice B, N is last. So it's obviously not before T there. And then with choice E, we've got N right between T and J. That's unacceptable. N should be before T, not after it. Therefore, E's gone as well, leaving A for number 6. Next, number 7, how many artifacts could be first? So, of course, P could be first, F could be first, and then N could also be first as well. Remember that N is simply in the middle of the diagram, but there's no one that has to go before N. So those 3 could all be first. Nothing else could. So C, choice 3, C3 is our answer for 7. Next, number 8, what cannot be fourth? Well, back in question 6, choice A, we saw that N could be fourth, so D is eliminated right off the bat. And then we could look for what can't go too late, what always has to have things after it in both diagrams here. And we see that F has got H, J, T after it in the left diagram. It's got H, J, T, and P after it in the right diagram. So F always has to have at least 3 things after it, and out of 6 things total. Therefore, F could never be fourth, and so A is our answer for number 8. Next, number 9, if F were third. So we know that if F were third, we'd have to be in the diagram on the left, where we only have 3 things after F, at least H, J, and T at a minimum, because in the diagram on the right, we have to have H, P, J, T all after at least 4 things. So for that reason, F could never be third. It'd have to be first or second. So right diagram's irrelevant. The left one's the one we're going to use with P before both N and H. If F was 3, we'd have to have P before it and N before it, because we'd have to have at least 2 before it, and no one else could go before it in this case. So since P's before N, we're going to have P on 1 and N on 2, and then we'll have H, J, and T coming afterwards, of course, with J before T. So that's how things flesh out here. They're asking us what must be second, and so C is our answer for number 9. Next, number 10, if P was first. So P first obviously isn't happening in the diagram on the right where P is after H and N. It's going to happen in this diagram. And if P was first, they're asking us how many could be second. Well, we know that H can't be second because it's got to have both P and F after it. So H's earliest is third. That's out of the running. If P's first, J can't be second because F has to go before it as well, and T can't be second because it's got to have at least, a lot of things, N, P, J, F all coming before it. So only N or F could be second. That's 2 different things. So B, 2 is our answer for 10. Next, number 11. This is a rule substitution question. So they're asking us, if we took away the rule that N and J are both before T, what would have an equivalent effect? Meaning no more limiting and no less limiting. So they're asking us which choice would simply return us to the 2 diagrams that we have right here, changing nothing at all, making them exactly the same. So if we removed that rule, that would leave us with F coming before H and J, as well as the rule that P's before both N and H or after both N and H. So this will have to bring us back to the 2 possibilities that we were already looking at. Now it's going to have to involve T in some way, and it's going to have to involve forcing T to go later, since T is late in both of these diagrams, right? So all 5 of these choices involve T, of course, which is going to make things a little bit trickier. Now if we look at choice A, which is saying that, T is before H but not as old as F, that gives us the general ordering F, T, and H. But as you see in our diagrams here, that doesn't have to be the case. In the diagram on the left, we have F before H, before J, before T, but they don't establish that T has to go in between F and H. And same in the diagram on the right, we have F before H, F before J, before T, but they're not specifically putting T in between F and H, so that's too limiting and is, as such, not our correct answer. Looking at B, that's putting F and N both before T, but that was certainly the case in both of these diagrams, but that does not necessarily put J before T, so that can be eliminated as well. Next, looking at C, N before T if and only if J is, that's giving us a double arrow telling us that N requires, N before T requires, N before J, and N before J requires N before T. But we need both of those things to go before T. Just creating an if and only if relationship, establishing that both of those things are necessary and sufficient for the other, is telling us that, either both of them are before T or both of them are after T, but that's not limiting enough because we specifically need both of those things to go before T. So we can eliminate C as well. So right now at this point, we've got A, B, and C all eliminated. Next, looking at D, that's requiring that everything except H and P go before T, telling us that we have to have all of F, J, and N before T. Now, maybe we'd have H and P before T also, maybe we wouldn't, but as we know from our main diagram, that's the case as well. It just puts things exactly as they were previously by telling us that N and J have to go before T. And we already have F before J in both diagrams, meaning that F would have to go before T as well, and J would have to go before T as well. As such, choice D is our answer. I will take a look at E though. So looking at choice E, what do we have here? E is requiring us to have P either before both N and T or after both N and T. Now in our diagram on the left here, we see that P is before both N and T, but in the diagram on the right, we could have had the general ordering N, P, T. So this new limitation is violating what we previously had allowed. So this is also not requiring both N and J to go before T, so it's not limiting things in the same way that they were limited before. Therefore, E is gone, leaving D for number 11.